Welcome to Now Talk News, where we break down the headlines that matter, clearly, calmly, and without spin. In today's video, we're exploring a topic that's generating increasing tension across the United Kingdom. Rising protests related to immigration, police readiness, and local community concerns. With public safety, economic implications, and political accountability all at stake, this issue demands a deeper look than the sound bites allow. Let's begin. The Metropolitan Police recently issued a warning that they may not be prepared for a repeat of last summer's protest wave. That's a significant admission. It comes alongside reports of new demonstrations outside several hotels set to house asylum seekers. One such location, a 4-star London hotel, has already drawn a sizable police presence this week. While security measures aim to prevent disorder, the crowded response highlights just how tense the situation has become. Simultaneously, national police staffing levels are declining. Official figures show that more than 1,300 full-time equivalent officers have left the force over the past year. Some attribute this to budget tightening, while others point to recruitment and retention challenges. Regardless of the cause, fewer officers on the streets could make a real difference in maintaining peace and order, especially during periods of heightened public emotion. Let's pause to consider the real-world implications. In communities like Epping and Canary Wharf, protests have already taken place. Some have been peaceful expressions of concern, while others have sparked confrontation. Many residents report growing unease. Local shopkeepers say they've closed early. Families say they feel unsettled. Residents wonder if their voices are being heard and what will happen next. Local officials and community leaders urge calm. They emphasize that peaceful protest is a fundamental right, but stress that any form of violence or intimidation must be addressed firmly. Their message is clear. Public safety comes first. That includes protecting protesters, local residents, and importantly, those recently moved into the hotels at the center of these demonstrations. A recent media story has added fuel to the fire. It reports that some asylum seekers have spent taxpayer-funded support in casinos and betting shops. That revelation has intensified calls for reform. Critics want stricter rules on how assistance is used. They want clearer eligibility criteria and regular reporting of expenditures. The aim is simple: ensure public funds are used in ways that align with shared values. Yet others urge caution before leap to conclusions. They remind us that most asylum seekers follow the rules and arrive seeking refuge. The processes involved are often lengthy and complex. Many applicants wait months or even years for decisions, with no ability to work in the meantime. Concerns raised about expenditure, while real to some, may not reflect broader patterns. The debate brings us to the heart of the matter: balancing national responsibility with social cohesion. On one hand, taxpayers want accountability and assurance that public funds are used responsibly. On the other, advocates argue for compassion toward those fleeing hardship, a commitment the UK has long upheld. The challenge is to craft policies that honor both principles. Beyond immediate concerns, the unrest is having political ripple effects. A few high-profile MPs have left major parties to join fringe or emerging groups. They say mainstream leadership is ignoring public frustrations around immigration and welfare. Their departures signal a fracture in the political consensus and a demand for bolder, more direct responses. Some of these defectors are now aligned with parties calling for stricter immigration limits, welfare reform, and law and order measures. They argue that current policies are failing the public and that voters are being let down. They see the protests as symptomatic of systemic issues that need urgent attention. These voices are reshaping political debate on both sides of the spectrum. Opposing them are those who call for a more balanced strategy. They urge policy changes rooted in data and empathy. They highlight that the majority of asylum seekers abide by the rules, that many are victims of conflict or persecution, and that the UK system already processes far more cases than most nations. For them, the solution lies not in rhetoric, but in administrative reform, modernization, and transparency. To understand the angles better, let's explore the systems at play: immigration, policing, and public support, and see where the breakdowns occur. On immigration, caseload volumes have surged in recent years, stretching the Home Office's capacity. Backlogs are causing extended wait times, which in turn affect integration efforts. Applicants are left in limbo, unable to settle, work, or contribute meaningfully. This fuels frustration on all sides. Residents feel ignored, watching decisions being made without their input, while their concerns about safety, resources, and community identity are dismissed as intolerance. Meanwhile, asylum seekers, many of whom have fled war, persecution, or poverty, find themselves blamed for problems they didn't create. They're placed in unfamiliar towns, often confined to hotels with little access to work, education, or support. They're seen but not heard, visible to the public, but voiceless in the debate. Police forces, too, are caught in the middle. Underfunded and understaffed, they're tasked with maintaining peace in increasingly tense environments. They face criticism no matter what, accused of failing to act when protests escalate, or of overreaching when they do. Local businesses suffer, forced to shut their doors during demonstrations. Streets become battlegrounds not just of opinion, but of public trust, dignity, and fear. At the center of it all is a government that has, for years, failed to create a coherent immigration strategy. Numbers are rising. Hotels, once meant for travelers, are now long-term shelters. Promises of deterrence have fallen flat. The Rwanda scheme, controversial from day one, has turned into a symbol of indecision rather than action. All the while, media outlets pour fuel on the fire. Headlines focus on isolated criminal cases rather than the bigger picture. Terms like invasion and crisis dominate, leaving little room for nuance. The result? A public increasingly divided. Protests aren't just about asylum anymore. They're about identity, control, and power. The feeling that Britain has lost its way. And that's the real danger. Not just that protests continue, but that they become normalized. That unrest becomes routine. That the breakdown in trust between government and people, between neighbor and newcomer, becomes permanent. So what happens next? That depends not just on policy, but on how honestly we're willing to face the facts. That immigration is complex. That border control alone won't fix broken housing, strained healthcare, or economic inequality. That behind every placard, whether pro or anti, are people feeling unheard. And unless something changes, radically and fast, the frustration on all sides won't just continue, it will explode.